Suit up, strap in, warm the tires, and leave on yellow. Time for the MitsuTimes podcast, presented by MitsuTimes.org, the home of the fastest Mitsubishi cars. With your host, Josh.
All right, guys, how's it going? It's Josh with MitsuTimes. Today, our special guest is Sid McMullen, the owner and driver of our #1 Mighty Max on our pickup list. For those of you who are wondering, let me just start off by saying the reason Nick Stack's truck isn't on there is because it's an Isuzu. I get questions all the time. Our pickup list that Sid is #1 in is only for Mitsubishi chassis vehicles. How's it going, Sid? How are you?
Pretty good this morning, Josh. How you doing?
I'm great, man. I'm glad that I finally get a chance to talk to you again, and we're gonna get this out because I know there's a lot of Mighty Max love out there, and I'm excited to let the listeners hear not just about your truck, but how it got there and your background.
Sure, that sounds good to me. Hopefully we'll get her saved this time and try to replicate the magic that happened the first time.
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely. If you don't know, me and Sid actually recorded this a few weeks ago, and we had some bad weather here in southern Indiana and lost the whole thing. So we're going to keep that from happening this time.
That's all right. Things have happened since then, so we're fine.
All right, Sid. So tell us a little bit about your truck as it sits right now.
All right. Well, the truck as it is right at the moment, it's basically a 2.4. It's not the factory 2.4 block. It's actually a spider block. And then it's got just a 6-bolt head. I think they're Kelford 272 cams. And then it's got a power glide with a 245 converter in it. Stock rear end welded. Made my own. I call them farm tracks. They're kind of a cow track copy, but I think they work a little better because the front plates are for a full-size truck size, and so it really drives the tire to the ground off the launch. And it's run on 275 Pro Bracket radials. And let's see what else is going on with it. It's got a Precision 6266 turbo on it, air-to-water intercooler, ice boxes in the little toolbox in the back. It's pretty stealthy. Just sitting with some Chevy Rally steel wheels. Weighs a little over 3,100 with me in it, with all the garbage I've got packed in the toolbox and stock interior and all that stuff going on. I think that's about it. There's nothing really special. It's got an Evo style header that I welded a V-band on and then made a little U-up pipe to mount the turbo on top. Instead of buying an expensive top mount, I just kind of modified something that works. And I've done that in the past, and it's worked out pretty well. Otherwise, that's about it. It's not too fancy ECM link. I basically tune it myself. Shout out to Kevin Jewer for helping me, and to Willie Gilchrist initially helping me to kind of get started on it. But I've pretty much taken over the helm for the last few years with it. They did help me get going on it initially, and so I do appreciate that. Yeah, that's about it for now, I think. It's as it sits. I'll let you ask more questions.
So what made you choose the Mighty Max in the first place?
Well, it's kind of an interesting story, I guess. I don't know about the Mighty Max. I guess I did choose the Mighty Max because I've been building a lot of 4G63 stuff. I have a 4G63 rear-wheel drive Datsun. I've had a couple Talons, and good friend of mine, Jared, he introduced me to the DSM platform. I'll get into that a little bit later, but the Mighty Max itself, I just liked them. They were clean. I was looking for something that I could do a 4G63 swap in a little truck. The reason why I wanted to do a truck is I used to have a little Chevy Love with a 400 small block in it and nitrous back in the day, and it was not even as fast as this one is, but it was just the funnest vehicle that I've ever built, actually. And this one now is probably the funnest vehicle that I've ever built to this date, and I've built a lot of them. So that's really why. Just a little pickup truck. I honestly probably would have went with a Toyota, or I might have went with whatever happened to come along. But I started looking at the Mitsubishis just because. Well, I suppose I should say this: is initially I was looking at them in the automatic variety because it has the 42 RH Dodge transmission in it, and I thought that because it has that bolted directly to the wide block 4G64, that it would be an easy build and that it would just be, easy, just like bolt together, do the head swap, piston swap, rods, all that stuff. But it ended up that those transmissions are garbage. They won't hold up any power. And then also that the 4G64 truck blocks, at least the 6-bolt ones, are actually very thin cylinders. So that didn't work out. But that's, I suppose, why I picked the Mitsubishi over all the other ones. Yeah, Kevin had the Mighty Max, the macro cab one.
Yeah.
That he was the first one that I really saw. Actually, I saw his run. I think it ran 1070 or something like that. It was real, just stealthy looking, except for big tires in the back. And I thought, that's kind of that's my speed. I really like sleeper type vehicles.
Yeah, definitely. His truck is, or I should say, his and Katie's truck is the one that really made me want to swap Mighty Max myself. I ended up doing it back in 2011 or 12.
Oh wow, long time ago.
Just couldn't get the traction. But one I think I had gone to the shootout and seen, I think it was Katie driving the truck at the time, and I was like, yep, I got to do one of those. I didn't really care for the macro cab, so I ended up getting a single cab. But truck was a ton of fun. But it would go sideways everywhere with just a 16G.
Yeah, well, that's stick shift, and probably didn't have anything going on in the rear suspension.
Right. Yep. Just the old leaf springs and the stock rear end.
Yeah. Yep. That's I had mine there for a little while without those farm tracks, in quotations. I say farm tracks because I built everything through John Deere Tractor Supply and John Deere Tractor Supply and Tractor Supply. So everything I bought there, and then just put it together with those little turnbuckles for the front end loaders, and it's fantastic, honestly. And because I think these springs are so short in the front compared to S10s, that if you watch the videos of this thing launching, it gets about 4 inches of separation on the rear, and so it just plows the tire into the ground. So it really does get it to hook up. And
people were saying that the stock rear end wouldn't hold up to a lot of launches, but I never had any problems with the stock rear end.
Well, I believe me, I worry about that every time. I made 200, and I added up my time slips on that stock rear end. I welded it, the center diff, welded the diff, sorry, not center diff, but welded the differential, and I made about 200 passes, probably at least 100 of them in the sub 150 60-foot range, down to 135 or 134, I think, with the power, with the 3-speed was the quickest, which is super quick. If you don't know, 8 mile, that's getting into, good built Mustang territory. Maybe, not the top level, but really, really well built cars. And so I was pretty impressed with it, but it did break the pinion after a while. And then, so I was going to put an 8.8 in it, but then I went ahead and I had another parts truck here, and I just wanted to keep going with this one. And I honestly, we'll get into this, but I'm kind of planning on turning it down once I get the other car going. So I thought, well, I'll just do it again. It made it 200 passes. I can launch it a little lower than I was launching it before. I have been launching it less aggressively, so maybe this one will make it for a long time. But who knows? I could buy another third member and weld it up and throw it in there. The only problem is it might happen at an event, but they seem to hold up pretty well. I think to the power that most people would make if you were, kind of careful with what you're doing. I think you could make them live for quite a while, honestly.
Yeah, definitely. So when you first bought the truck, did you already know? It sounded like you were already planning on swapping it. Was that the plan?
Yeah. I had planned on. I wanted to get a pickup to do a swap. Like I said, I didn't know which one, but then I kind of narrowed it down once I found the automatic. Then but yes, the plan was at least to do the head swap, piston swap, and just do something mild just for fun. My goal initially was just something that would run in the 10s, just to be a fun little hardware store truck to drive around and get. And, it was definitely planned right off the bat.
I know we talked about, the 2.4 and the different transmissions. Did you run any other setups in this truck other than the one that it has in it right now?
Yeah, I've ran a few from the get-go. I've had this one in there for quite a long time now, but the first 6 months of the swap, I went through a lot. I went through probably 3 2.4 engine blocks before I just gave up on them. And then I went through 2 of those 42RH transmissions before I gave up on them and just swapped it over. And when I did that, I put a 2-liter in it with the Power Glide, pretty much the same type of build that I had in my Datsun. And I went ahead and ran that, and it ran in the high tens, but low boost. I was only running, when I was running those 2.4s, I was only running like 25 pounds of boost, and that's where they'd start cracking the cylinders. And then I put the 2-liter in, I was running kind of similar boost, and I think it ran a high 10 at that point, maybe a little bit better than that. I really can't remember. It's been years now, but I had a 2-liter in it for a little while, and I've run the 2.4s and a 2.3 stroker before, and I know the torque, that 100 millimeter crank, just makes a whole difference for driving. And that was the whole point of this truck, was to have something that was fun to just run down to the grocery store, hardware store, whatever. And I wanted something, especially with the Power Glide, you need a little bit more torque, and it was really lethargic with the 2-liter. So I went ahead and built a 2.4 in it, put that in. That's the spider block that's in it now. And it has been in there with just a couple of issues along the way, but this is the same engine from probably after 6 months of building it. I think it's been together for a few years now. So but yeah, I went through a few combinations as far as that goes.
All right, so that kind of gets us to where why you chose the 2.4, but how involved was it to take the truck block out and to put the spider block in?
Well, not too bad really, because I had I guess I skipped over something. I forgot that the transmission failures started happening before the engine failures were happening. It was happening at like 25. The transmission failures happened probably in the first month. I'm sorry, I forgot about that.
No, you're good.
So I modified, I think it's a Kennedy Engineering plate that I had at the time. I modified that. I did some real effery on it. Basically, I basically drilled it out for the wide block to mate up with the Power Glide, and I threw the Power Glide in there, and so I forgot about that part, but I got that to work. I actually welded a ring gear onto another flex plate to utilize the thick spacer, because I already knew that thin spacer, the original design of spacer, was going to keep coming loose. I had that happen before, so I wanted to make sure I ran the good spacer, the adapter, and so I kind of modified the ring gear, but that held up for quite a long time, and then I switched the engine and just used one of Bill Hincher's adapters for that, which I probably have 3 or 4 of them around now. But it was pretty easy with the Hincher adapter. It's very easy.
Yeah.
This is a 7-bolt spider, so obviously it's a spider block, so it's a 7-bolt, and so he doesn't make a lot of those, I don't think. So I think I had to wait a little bit for that coupler to be machined, and then you get the flex plate directly from him. That goes. Hopefully, nothing ever goes wrong with that. I'm gonna have to hit up Bill for a spare, because you never know. But anyway, that was a very simple. That was a very simple to go. You just plug off the deck bolts on the spider block, and everything else is just bolt up. It's got long rods, and it's 87 millimeter, and it's been pretty good. Other than I've bent a couple of rods in it when I was really getting after it. But I didn't blow the head gasket. I finally got that stuff figured out, so I think I'm pretty happy with that part of it.
And Bill does some top quality rear-wheel drive stuff. If you're out there and you're building anything 4G rear-wheel drive, definitely check out all Bill's products.
Yeah, for sure. Bill Hincher is doing a really good job, and I know he's a one-man show, and I really do hope that he's able to keep going at it for a while, because I think it helps guys like myself and others that are looking to do these different kind of swaps to help us get it done much easier than having to start from scratch, building an adapter plate ourselves and all that. So
I asked him originally if he wanted to sponsor the rear-wheel drive list, and he said that he didn't want to because he was afraid he would get a lot more orders, and he likes to take his time and stuff.
Yeah, well, that's he's a one-man band over there.
Yeah,
I've talked to him a few times, so yeah, it takes him a little while sometimes to get things out, and I do hope that he's able to continue for some time. I know he's doing a lot of Honda stuff now, and
yeah,
branched out into a lot of other things. So I really hope he doesn't forget about us Mitsubishi guys. Because I'm pretty sure I'm going to stay with this platform for a while.
yeah. I'm trying to talk him into doing something for the 6G series engines, some type of rear-wheel drive transmission, either for the R154 or the T5 or something.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know much about the 6-cylinder ones, to be honest with you. I haven't looked into those engines too much. I just know they look like a nightmare when you look at them under 3000 GTs.
Yeah.
I don't want to touch that. It looks like a mess.
Take the whole engine apart just to do anything.
Yeah, exactly. I'm one of those. I like to have I'm from the old school hot rod, old Chevy platform. We had a small block Chevy in there, and you had a foot of room around everything to work. I like it that way.
Step into the engine bay.
Yeah, that's why I stick with this 4-cylinder, to be honest with you. A lot of guys ask me why I don't do other stuff. It's like, well, I have a lot of room, and it's very easy to work on. After a while, you get older, you hate getting your hands pinched in everywhere trying to pull plugs out.
Yeah.
It gets old after a while dealing with that stuff.
So if you could start all over, would you do your truck exactly how you have it right now?
That's a good question. I probably would. Honestly, it's very close to what I would do. Every time I come back from the track or anything, I tell my wife, she doesn't really care, but I tell her I love this truck so much. It's definitely one of my favorite vehicles, and when I go drive it around on the street. So I have to say, I think I'd probably do it almost identical. Maybe, well, the 62, 66 has been really pretty flawless as far as that goes, other than my mess ups with it. The engine, I probably would do a 400, probably do a turbo 400 if I were starting dead from scratch.
Yeah.
Right now, I'd probably do a turbo 400 rather than a 350 or a power glide, just for that extra low gear helps just cruising around. But surprisingly, that 2.4 with a turbo that gets a little bit, a boost early on, it drives just like you have a V8 under the hood, really, when you're just cruising. But it takes a little bit to get into full power. So I'd say it's a big difference with the 3-speed versus the 2-speed. So I probably would go with a 400 because I've had a lot of issues with the 350 burning up direct clutches. I'm hoping I have it resolved now, but it just seems like it only holds up for 5 or 6 passes and then goes away. So yeah, I'd probably do a 400, and maybe I'd start with an 8.8 right off the bat.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's been good. I can't really complain too much about it. And I love it. So I don't know if I've changed much.
You really love the platform. What motivates you to keep going and keep pushing the truck?
Well, to keep pushing this truck, the only motivation I really have with this now is to make it even more stealth. That's really the motivation I have right now. I'm going to change it up a little bit. You'll see it on the YouTube once I start posting it. I'm going to do something to make it look just bone stock with tiny little tires. Hopefully I can get them to work. We'll see. But the motivation is to still, I guess I don't know, maybe it's an ego thing. I'm not sure what the motivation for the truck, because it's already went as fast as it's went way faster than what I had planned on initially.
Yeah.
And it's really, I don't have a cage in it, so I can't really run it anywhere other than this track that they allow me to do this, and back of the track stuff where they don't care about anything. That's about all I can do with it right now, unless I put a cage in it. And I just don't. I've had cars with cages, driving them around, and it just changes everything on them. So I'd say what motivates me is probably all the people that come up every time I go to the track that really just freak out that it's a 4-cylinder. They don't know anything about anything other than LS down here. I can tell you that. I live on the border, and all they know is turbo LS. And when I come over there and I open the hood and they look and they say, "Is it a 2J?" They always ask if it's a 2J. If it was a 2J, it sounded a hell of a lot better because I do like the way they sound.
Definitely.
But no, it's not a 2J. And they, most of them don't know. But once in a while, you get a guy that comes over that knows what he's looking at. And I think that's motivation. Just the attention that it gets and just the sheer fun of it. I built it. The other thing I forgot to mention in the initial thing is that I have a 3-inch exhaust with a factory tailpipe, factory muffler, and I've got a cutout right before that. And so it is super quiet. It sounds like a bone stock factory truck, like a factory. Probably you haven't heard a factory truck forever, I bet. But it sounds like a bone stock factory truck until I open up that exhaust. And it's super quiet. So I think that's the thing I like driving. I think it's one of those that I like to do stuff that go as fast as guys that have full-blown race car operations. And I can drive it, and I can hear myself think. I can talk on the phone. I can do it all. It may not be a new supercar, but it races like one for sure, as fast as they are, and I can still function without going insane with all the exhaust noise and everything happening. So I drive it like it's like my Cayenne or whatever car I'm driving. It's basically the same to me. So I've learned that. I think that's what really keeps me motivated. Is surprising people, I suppose.
Makes sense. So, what are your goals for the rest of the year with this truck? I know you said, you have another project you're working on. Are you pretty much done pushing this one?
Well, that's an interesting question, because I would always say that I am. In my mind, I'd say, well, you've gone far enough with this truck. You don't need to go any further. But when it starts doing personal bests again, like last week, then you're like, geez, I could go a little further. That's what I keep thinking. But the reality is, if I was anywhere else, I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing. And so I have to kind of be realistic that, I think my goals for this year with this truck are, I originally was thinking to tone it down even further, to just run like 1050s or something like that, because that's a walk in the park. Like I run 1020 shutting off at the 8th mile consistently. I was going to try to do, I think we talked about this before the last time, and I'm kind of going through my memory of things we talked about, but I guess it's irrelevant. But I want to try to do the drag and drive events, but I was going to try to set it up for the 1150 index or dial, whatever that happens to be. But 1150, so you don't have to have a cage. However, since we talked the last time, I tried to run what is a 7.0 class, 8 mile 7.0 class. And it was extremely hard to get it to slow down to that, because it has to slow down a full second to that. And then even at that 7.0, I was braking like 1130, shutting off at the 8th mile. So honestly, I just don't even think I could run an 1150 without, I don't know, I'd have to put a really tiny turbo or something on. I bet it still would. I'd have to have like 10 or 15 pounds of boost, maybe. I don't even know what I'd have to do. I guess it's something I'd try, but that's not fun,
Right.
But that's what my goal was for this year, until I started trying to slow it down and found out that it was just not very easy to do. I know it sounds easy to turn the boost down and everything, but and I'm running a manual boost controller, so I suppose that plays a part in it. But it was hard. I had it down like 18 pounds, and it's just, to get the 7.0, I was running like 18 pounds, and it still was going too fast. So I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do that. I really want to, but maybe I'll do it with something else. But the goal, I really have a couple. The other goals I have, I want to go up to Yellow Valley. It's a pretty popular track. They just had a really big small tire shootout up in Dallas, and it's one of those places you can go and they'll see something like this, and everybody be betting their wad against it, I guarantee it. But I've seen what runs there, and I feel like I would do pretty well. So I definitely want to make it to that. I'm thinking I might want to go up to the PSCA race in Colorado. I think that's in June. I have a lot of friends. I'm from Colorado, so I have a lot of friends up there. Maybe not import friends, but all the other ones will be there, and go up to that race. And obviously I'll have to slow it down a lot to go. Bannerman is very strict, so I'll have to definitely slow it down to 11:50, and I don't even think they'll let me run the 8th mile and shut it down, to be honest with you, up there. But I would like to do that, just to go hang out with some people that I know. And otherwise, the goal is really just, that's just to make it stealthy. I may have mentioned this before. We probably shouldn't have talked before we got on, because I find it historical. And but my plan is I'm going to try this next week. I'm going to try running. I just bought some Nissan wheels. They're 15 by 5s. I know that sounds crazy, but they're 15 by 5s, and I have these. They're 26 by 7. I think they're Phoenix slicks or Hoosier slicks that a buddy of mine got them for his, and he ended up buying a little bit big. He has a little Colt, and he bought a little bigger tires, so I got these from him. But with the way this thing reacts, I have a feeling if I turn it down to like 4,000 launch, it'll probably still cut a 147, 150, 60 foot, which is enough to go, easily, like probably 970 or something like that. And so I really want to do that with some hubcaps all the way around and make it look factory stock. That way, when I drive somewhere, they don't know. So it's really just about making it more. The name of it's LaRue's, which is to fool people. And so I kind of want to take that to the extreme of it and just get some more video out with it and have some fun as far as that goes. That's really just have fun with it and just enjoy it. That's about my goals for this year.
That sounds like a killer plan to me.
Yeah, I hope so.
So, do you have any power goals for the truck, or I guess power is pretty much irrelevant, but any quarter mile goals? Like, do you want to break into the 8s or?
No, but this is where I have to keep my ego in check and myself in check, because that happens to me all the time. As soon as I break, as soon as I went faster than 950, I don't think I've posted that on there before, but once I break that middle mark, then I start pushing for the next second barrier. I try to go to an 890, generally speaking.
Right.
But with this truck, with the safety equipment, and I understand their concerns, it's dangerous. And I'm sure a lot of people listening to this are going to think I'm a moron for racing it as fast. I have been going just 8th mile, which is about 115 to 117 miles an hour. So it's still fast, but it's not crazy. But as far as power goes, I probably met them already. I say that, but I'm getting ready to throw a bigger turbo on it next week, one that I've ran before, just because I want to see if I can break the 120 mile an hour in the 8. That's kind of a goal I have right now. I put new tires on the back, some new Pro Bracket radials, and I want to see if I can get it to hit 120 and get another. I'd like to get it a 570 or a 580 in the 8th, and I feel like if I can get that, I just want to leave it there.
Yeah.
And call it a day right there, and that's about it for power. I feel like it's already surpassed what I wanted. I originally built this to run a 1050. That was my goal, was a 1050. Yeah. I blew that out of the water probably the 4th, 5th time out after getting the transmission stuff resolved. So it's been
definitely past that.
Yeah, pretty by a second actually. Yeah, it's done pretty well.
We already established that this isn't your first Mitsubishi or your first even 4G63 car or vehicle. Is there any other ones you want to talk about?
It's not my first Mitsubishi. And my friend Jared Burke, which I'd mentioned, shout out to Jared again, he's the one who kind of badgered me into starting on building DSMs. He had seen what I do with I've built a lot of Chevy stuff all the way up to nitro coupe. Back in the day, we were running nitro coupes, and I had a little small block nitrous alcohol small block Nova, and he'd seen what I did with that. He saw what I did. I had a little Porsche 4-cylinder, the 944 turbo, made that run real fast. And he said, I want to see what you can do with these engines. And so he ended up selling me a car for super cheap, and my son drove it for quite a while, and then I built it for a little bit. And then I started moving on to other things. So it's not my first Mitsubishi, and it's definitely not my first swap. My Datsun was my first swap, which that car's went at 880, and then I stopped running quarter mile, and it's ran a 512 in the 8 best so far on that. So that's that. But my new one that I'm building now, I say it's got to be maybe a longer process than I originally was anticipating, but it's a Fox body. I know they've been done before. I put a YouTube video up on Boosted Gringo, so if you guys want to check out YouTube. It's not very good. I'm old. I don't know all this technology, so I do the best I can. But I'm doing a compound turbo in a Fox body, and so it's going to be a 2-liter aluminum rod with Power Glide 8.8. Try to use a platform that works really well, and I was looking for another roller because my Datsun has gotten so rusty that I was looking for something better. Came across this one, so this is what we're getting, and hopefully I have big goals for that car, but we'll talk about that when I set those. This is about the truck. The truck does its thing, so car we'll see. But yeah, I've been into the DSM scene since Jared had taught me about it. He talked me into getting it, and to kind of tell you how I really got interested in it was we had, after the Street Outlaws show came out, kind of revived all the street racing stuff up in Colorado and probably nationwide, honestly. But it revived. I used to do a lot of street racing with my little Chevy Love truck and my 69 Camaro, and I did that for a lot of years. And then that came up, and I had been out of the scene for a while racing, because my kids were racing bikes and stuff. I just didn't have the time to do it. And I went out to that Colorado Street Outlaws, and by the end of the night, we had 2 DSMs in first and third. I believe that's what happened on the first one. And to be honest with you, they were racing against my friends that at that time had low 7-second, couple of high 6-second, like real legit drag cars that were semi-street, but drag cars mostly. And they were able to beat them on the street. And I said, well, that's a platform I can get into because it's affordable and it's just my style of sleeper-ish type. And then I went with my wife, she's from Puerto Rico. We went to Puerto Rico, and I went to Salinas Dragway, and I saw all the little cars, man, running consistent mid-7s, high 7s. Every round, they'd have 15-minute sessions, and they were going back to back. I'm like, wow, that looks like that would be fun. So I built my little Datsun after that I knew I was going to use the DSM platform, or the 4G63 platform anyway. And I came back and built that car, and that's been a journey on its own, and then got into this one. So yeah, those are the cars I've had. I had a 2G that I built to run, that one ran a 1010 full weight with everything. And it was a very simple, just a 4G64 build with a 2G automatic. And whoever makes that painted converter, I forget the name of it. I don't know the DSM transmission stuff much, but it had that the one that's painted pink, the converter, and but it ran fantastic. So you can make them all run. That's the beauty of it. If you know how to get the head sealed up and build a decent bottom end, they'll last pretty well too.
If anybody out there, they just got a Mighty Max or a D50, whatever, and they're looking to make some power, what advice would you give them that experience that you've gained, they don't have to go through the same trials and errors, tribulations?
Yeah, well, one thing I'll say is I know a lot of guys want to do things to the nines. They start off a project, and it's great. I've never been that guy, but I respect it. What I see most of the time when that happens is that the project gets canned. It never gets finished. So to me, I like the KISS method. Keep it simple, stupid. And pretty much do things to where you can get it accomplished and then improve upon it. That's the way I roll. I don't know if it's the best, but it works for me. And so I think for anybody getting into it, try to avoid that automatic transmission. Honestly, stick shift, you just got to know that that transmission is probably going to break. I know there's guys that have done it and that, that it works for a little while, but it's probably going to break. So I'd probably think about an adapter and do that. And a stick shift would be more fun, but you're just not going to go as fast. It's just the way it is. It's all the way with Mustangs and everything. So anyway, I would say I would try to keep it simple. The way I did it by moving the engine forward. It was very easy. I made some plates that basically bolted to the frame horns, and then I used basically the stock motor mounts, and I used hockey pucks, which is a common thing to use. You could probably extend those motor mounts, but I kind of like having a little cushion in there, and hockey pucks have worked really well in the past for all kinds of people for things. But so you just slide the engine forward. I think it's 3.5 inches. One of the easiest things of this build was that I ended up with an aluminum drive shaft out of one of those Crown Victoria police cars. And so I slid it. Everything fit perfectly with the little adapter to the rear end that it was made. It's just a little adapter that goes from the Ford flange to the Mitsubishi flange. And so if you slide everything forward, it gives you, you don't have as much space in front of the radiator, but I still have plenty of space. I have like 3 inches between the timing belt and the radiator. So it's still plenty that I can get in there. I don't have to pull the radiator to the timing belt if I want to on this thing. And it gives you room around the back to where you can get to the back. You can run the cam angle sensor. You don't have to cut the firewall. It's just very simple. And to be honest with you, a lot of guys say that the weight distribution is bad for it. Well, I can tell you right now, I've pulled the front wheels off the ground 3 to 4 inches with not even, the thing doesn't even squat in the back. It hikes up the whole thing. It goes like 4x4 when it takes off, and it still pulls the front tires. So yeah, you could probably get a little better weight distribution pushing it back and running maybe a crank sensor instead of a cam angle sensor. But listen, this is simple. It goes forward. I did the header to where it's simple, and up on the top, I would say that's probably paramount on these, is to get the turbo up to the top, however you choose to do it. Yeah. I've always used like an up pipe because it's very simple to make, and then you can just mount the turbo. It takes 15 minutes to change it. I changed it last night at the track in about 20 minutes. It was real quick. And so I'd say if I were to recommend, I would say, just slide it forward, do it simple, make a transmission mount or modify the current one, do either a 400 or a turbo 350 if you're not going to make a lot of power, whatever you're going to use for transmission. I know there's probably you may be able to run a Dodge transmission. I don't get into that. I just know the GM stuff because there's adapters for it. And then you can run that drive shaft, make a little, just a little adapter, or put an 8.8 in it. And if I was starting from scratch, I'd say I would recommend they just probably go, since you're not doing it right off the bat, just do an 8.8. The locked spool in the rear is kind of a pain in the butt when you're parking, but I overlook it now. But I think without it would probably be a little easier to drive. Mm-hmm. But that would be it. I would just go forward. I used the factory harness, by the way. This is a factory Mitsubishi Mighty Max harness. Added a couple wires for the igniter for the ignition. One of them, I think, is still the original distributor wire. And then I think I had to add a power wire. So there's only a few wires, and then I changed up. I swapped over to the multifunction relay from a Talon and just cut the wiring and routed that out to splice it in where it needed to go. I run the factory fuel tank. It's got a Walbro 450 in the tank, and then a 044 with a sump on the bottom of it. That has I can control it with the ECU, but I have a hob switch that turns it on at like 1 pound of boost. And so I have 2 fuel pumps running, but it's a simple build. Honestly, I did a video on there on the YouTube channel. You'll see it if you look back a little ways. It's just how much I love it and how simple it is, and why somebody, I just don't understand why anybody would not build it, because it's so easy. Yeah. So easy. And if you wanted to run, if you were content with like 11s, man, it would be like, it's a walk in the park, It's a little harder when you start wanting to run in the 9s consistently. Then, yeah, but I don't know. This one has been, I have to say, this one has been super reliable. Sometimes I'll run 10 times at the track. That's what my friends are always, they can't believe how many runs I'll make on this thing. When they're there with their race cars, make 2 hits. And I'll run it 10 times. I put like a Speedway aluminum radiator, big aluminum radiator, big transmission cooler. Pretty much I can just run, it's got an oil cooler, so I can just run it back to back. And I run consistent 620, 630, and consistent 140, 60 foots without even a thought. Like it's super. It's probably one of the easiest vehicles that I ever raced. So I don't see why somebody wouldn't do it. When I look back on, I would build another one in a heartbeat, and I might. You never know. But yeah, I would tell people just to keep it simple. Don't get crazy. Cutting the firewall, moving everything back. Sure, if you want to, fine, but it just adds a lot of complexity. It's unnecessary.
Yep.
To me. So.
And when we talked about moving the engine forward, one thing that I wanted to point out is that it keeps you from having to take that front freeze plug out of the head and put a big dent in the firewall.
Yeah. I just have the adapter on the back that I run a hose from the back of the head up to the radiator, the upper radiator hose. And it's simple, you get that. I think it's J Racing or one of those companies makes the adapter to a -20, and then you just put a rubber hose that's just runs along underneath the intake and right up. It's very simple. And like I said, I felt like this, but I've done one already on my Datsun. I have the front with an electric water pump, so I don't think that weighs bad either. But you do have to block off the two little holes in the deck. Just to plug those, but that's simple too. But I think this is even more simple, to be honest with you. It's using the factory coolant flow design, which seems to work pretty well. This thing, without a thermostat in it, I drove it last night. The track was going on, and the lanes got really busy, and I had just done some stuff where I ended up with I tried one of those Vans and Wiggins style clamps off of the throttle body, and the thing was, I don't know if I like those clamps. Sorry to say this out in front of everybody, but the thing was leaking, and I took it apart, put it back together, and then I went ahead and took it out on the road to get to the point that I just took it out on the highway because the track was just, it was just overloaded with people, and the staging lanes were full. I took it out on the highway, did a couple rips, came back, and looking at it's 130 degrees, and stays cool. I just drove right to the lanes, and they were packed. So. But yeah, that's the thing. Using the factory coolant flow and a big radiator really does help these things.
Yeah.
Sure.
And one thing I wanted to point out too, when you were talking about a top mount, if you are in the market for a Mighty Max planning to run a big turbo, that factory suspension top mount is right where your turbo plans to live if you're going to do a bottom mount.
Yeah, exactly. That's the problem. So you really do need to do a top mount. I think.
Anything bigger than a 16G is going to require a top mount for sure.
Like I said, my way of doing it, and it's worked fantastic, is just to weld a V-band flange. You could do it on a factory exhaust manifold. If I was just somebody that was going to do this, just get yourself a 2.5-inch 90, or 180, I'm sorry. Just get a 2.5-inch 180, cut it really short, weld a V-band. It makes it really easy to work on, too. You have two V-bands, one on the turbo, one on the exhaust. You just weld the V-band onto the factory exhaust manifold, do a real quick 90 or 180, I'm sorry, and then put the turbo right there, build a brace to hold it up, and that's it. It's very simple, and it works really fantastic. So it makes it, and then the downpipe, has plenty of room to go. So yeah, it works out really well. That's the way I would do it if I was doing it. I did it this way. I would do it again.
This episode of the MitsuTimes podcast is brought to you by Boosted Fabrication. They create custom parts for most Mitsubishi vehicles, parts stronger and lighter than OEM, such as cross members, engine mounts, bumper supports, and many others, including custom parts by request. Boosted Fabrication builds all parts to order using only high-quality materials, bonded together with expert precision, and finished to not only last, but to look good doing it. Check out all the products they have to offer at boostedfabrication.com. So is there any events, I know you attend Edinburgh a lot, is there any events that somebody could come out and see the truck in person? I know we talked about Rocky Mountain Race Week too.
Yeah, well, I'd say that, Edinburgh here obviously is my home track now. And so I'll be out there once or twice a week, pretty much. I probably make like 10 to 12 runs a week out there. But I do plan on going I want to go to Yellow Belly up in Dallas for sure. I'd like to do the Rocky Mountain Race Week, but like I mentioned earlier, it's very hard to get it to slow down to the 1150. But I could just do the drive and make a couple of passes at the track, so that'll allow it. Maybe I'm not sure about that, but it's something I want to do. Maybe the PSCA race up in Colorado is another one I want to hit. I just want to get back up with some of my lifelong friends that are racers, and and maybe I'd like to go to the shootout. This year, the shootout is one thing I want to try to get to. Obviously, the truck is not going to be able to run to its potential there either for safety equipment reasons, and I've gone over why I'm not going to do all that. But I really want to go. We're building another car that's a little Colt that people might know as Catapult, and that one should be pretty snazzy when it gets up there. And the truck, I can make a couple runs and at least do some launches and some 8th mile, and that'll show the potential. Whether I can run it out the back door or not, it's kind of up to the track. But I'm pretty sure it would do pretty well because I race it twice a week. I feel like I've got a pretty good handle on it now, where it's a real reliable combination that I drive every day when I want, and go race it Wednesdays and Fridays and Saturdays sometimes. But yeah, those are the events I really want to try to hit. There's maybe some more. Maybe some people should put some suggestions of other places if they think there's something better that I should go to. I'm just not. The import scene to me is it's not like I really was diving into that.
Right.
And I know it's a little different. So it's definitely a younger crowd. So I don't know. I don't keep up with it all, but I feel like, there may be some things that would be better suited for this truck to go to that I'm unaware of. So if people know of anything, they can message me on there that might be something to look at, or just put a comment on the YouTube channel, and that way I can pay attention to, like, if I can look it up and see if there's something that might be more suited. They have like a sleeper truck nationals. That's what I'd love to go to. That would be we need to create that. That's what I want, is a sleeper truck nationals where it looks bone stock and like it's ready to do some work, and that's it. You just drive it there. That's my goal. We'll make a sleeper truck national.
There you go. That would be something that I would love to attend as well.
Yeah.
Just to see what shows up.
Yeah, see all the combinations and a functional bed. That's one of my things of these. I'm sure you'll see it on there on the channel if you look. I'll haul hay. I'll race it on Friday night, haul hay on Saturday. run a 9 Friday night, go pick up 5 bales of hay on Saturday morning.
Yep.
That's what I just love doing it, because it just shows the versatility of the truck, and it shows that I use my truck way more. Texas is big on trucks.
Yeah.
But these trucks down here, I use quotations very often because a lot of times they don't have a bed under them. They put a sheet metal on the top or aluminum, and there's nothing in the bed. You cannot put a bale of hay. Not that I'm a big hay person, but that's what I choose to use it for. But you can't haul anything in most of these trucks that claim to be trucks. So to me, a truck is a truck that you can use. And I want to use this truck similar to I use my big Dodge without just can't tow with it, but at least I can use it for hauling. So
I do have one question that kind of came up. Somebody had messaged me. I kind of didn't prepare you for it, but some guy from the Philippines, they have a little race shop over there, and they're pushing those Mitsubishi diesel trucks. And he messaged me saying that they were coming for the number 1 spot. They had a long ways to go because they were just now getting into the 12s and trying to push the limits of seeing what the diesel engines could do. If another truck did take the number 1 spot, would you push the truck further, or put in the safety equipment or anything like that?
Yeah, I'm sure I would. My ego wouldn't allow that, I guess. I mean, listen, I don't think a diesel is going to do it. I think it's going to. I mean, I have a nice big compound diesel truck. I know they can make a lot of power, but it's a lot harder once you. I think they're. We'll see what we'll see what happens. Yeah. But again, there's a long ways to go on that. But listen, I look at it just like I said. I know I said this the last time that got deleted was, listen, this number 1 spot to me, I respect it. I'm happy to be doing this. But really, Nick's truck is, like you said in the beginning, he's the number 1 spot placeholder. Well, until he now switched to LS. But the reality is that's, for the 4G63 truck platform, he still owns that to me. I'm just here doing what I'm doing, having fun. I'm surprised that I'm here. I don't really think a lot of people are shooting for this. I wish they would. I would love the competition. I see people post once in a while they're going to do this, and I say, great, that would be awesome, because it probably would push me, I suppose, if I was to be totally honest with myself. I don't know if I could manage, unless it was a full-blown race shop that was really preparing something and they just knocked it out of the park, then I'd be like, well, it's yours. That's great. You should have that. But I believe I have, this truck weighs 3,100 with me in it, with all the crap I've got in it. I know for a fact weight makes, and everybody that races knows, weight makes a world of difference. I have another truck sitting beside the shop right now that I could gut down to nothing and probably get it down to 2,500 with me in it. And I'd already be knocking on the eights with it. Not as fast as Nick. His truck is, that's phenomenal to run. 80, 81. That's impressive. And I don't know if I'm ever going to try to get to that level with a truck. Definitely with my Mustang for sure. But to make the final answer is yes. If somebody were to come out and push, for that, I would probably do it here without, I'd be honest with you, I'd probably do it here without adding the safety equipment into my truck, just because I'm sure anybody that's had a car with a roll cage will attest is that when you're driving around a car with a roll cage every day, if you're utilizing it, I feel it's way more dangerous to be doing that than, I'd say it's probably equal really to me running 8 mile for sure. But quarter mile, I don't know. It could get sketchy and out of hand real quick. But I probably would push it at this track to try to, to get down below. My fastest pass so far is a 942 with the truck. I know it's a 970 something posted on there, but I ran a couple others. But that was kind of glory pass, the 942. I've ran a couple other ones that are 9.6s and 7s. But I kind of, I figured I'll leave it where it's at. And if some people are coming, then I'll try to turn it back up to where it was at. And maybe I can get it. Like I said, if I get below that 950 mark, this is where I had to put myself in check, is once I hit below that 950 mark, I knew I was going to start pushing for the 8 something. Yeah. And then I knew it was going to be a whole different ball game, that I really would probably need to get a cage in there, that I would need to do so many different things that sometimes it's better just to slow down and enjoy it for what it is and not get too carried away. I've done that so many times in the past that I've regretted it every time now, looking back. So sometimes it's best just to leave them, enjoy it for what it is.
Like you said, when it's so consistent, I mean, kind of hesitant to change anything.
Yeah, it's not a consistent 5-second truck yet, which is, I suppose, kind of my goal if I was to give it a goal. But it's very consistent 6:10 to 6:30. Some nights it's dead on 6:20, 6:21. Damn, like I say it all the time, I could bracket race this truck. And so yeah, there's not really an ambition to get more crazy with it than it is already. But I do think I would like, because it's just something to be, it's kind of like the next second thing. If I could get it to run consistent 5s, I say this about everything, but if I could get it to run consistent 5s, I think I'd just be completely ecstatic with it. I think it's very possible. I'm looking at a real potential goal. Like, this is an absolute potential. It's already done it. I feel like just a couple little tweaks, I can probably get it to go very consistently, a 590, a 580. I only have to gain a couple of tenths, and I think I've got the idea to get it there. So, but time will tell. We'll see. But that's, but again, I don't need to do that. It's pretty good where it's at.
Right, yeah. I don't see anyone taking that spot for a good long while.
No, I hope they do. I mean, honestly, I hope. I love just the competition. When that Flavio, I think his name, had it, and I was like, they were posting some videos. I'm like, yeah, come on, man, that would be great. Just keep going, because it pushed me. Like, I saw their video, and I don't know how long ago it was, but I saw that, and I was fairly close to it. I'm like, oh, but it didn't take, it took me going to the track a couple times to get there. But I was like, I was hoping that they would continue to go with it, and hoping, maybe Kevin Dewar would keep going with his, or, just somebody else to go, just because it makes it more fun to push each other, I suppose.
And like you said, the Flavio truck, I hope I'm saying that right. It just looks so much more serious. Like, it has the roll cage and it has the big slicks, and man, I really thought that they were coming for it. So I'm not sure. I'll have to message him and see what the plan is for that truck.
Yeah, hopefully they can. I'm mean, I hope so. I don't care. I don't care if they make it a race truck to compete. It doesn't matter. You know, whatever it is, it is. If Nick Stack put his truck back to this, then that's good competition too. I don't care. I just feel like just to have something going, you know, and put a try. I suppose not his truck because it's a Suzuki, but 8 Mighty Max. Not that there's much difference, to be honest with you.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I used Nick's truck as the logo for the pickup list, and just tried to tweak the grill so it looked like a Mighty Max. But man, every time I look at it, I'm like, you really cannot tell the difference between these two trucks.
No, they're not too much different. I don't know. A lot of those parts are interchangeable on these little Japanese trucks. You'll notice. I think the rear ends are very much similar in all of them. So it's it's a very. I think they just, you know, they have a couple of suppliers that just say, okay, we're going to build some different fenders and doors, and that's it. It's the same.
Change the grills out. Yeah, when that guy messaged me from the Philippines, the very first thing I thought was, man, Sid would love for you to come up there and at least knock on the door.
Yes, you're right. You're right. And no disrespect, I don't know if it's going to happen, but hey, more power to you. If they can make it happen, especially with a diesel, man, I'll give them all the credit in the world to do it with a diesel.
Yeah, with double the displacement you have, I think it's going to be, and twice the doors, it's going to be tough.
Oh, you know, I'd love to have one of those. That's one thing I say I wish we had here in the United States is the 4 doors.
Oh, for sure.
I would, if I were to, I would give up my truck if I could do like a little Ford, the new, what is that thing? The
Maverick?
the Maverick, yeah. Or something along those lines. I see these little trucks from Mexico down here. They're little front wheel drive jobs. I don't know who makes them, but they got a tiny little bed, little 4-door. I thought, this is exactly what I need right here. These would be, I would definitely like, no, you know, like the Mighty Max guys, I'm sorry, but I would switch in a heartbeat if I could build one of those. I think having the 4-door to mob around with your friends would be just so fun.
I was down at Fort Bliss for some training, and we were off post for a while, and I think it was called a Lobo or something. It was like one of those small trucks, just like you're saying.
Yeah, I think it is a Ford. I think it's a Ford Lobo or something like that. I thought the Lobo was like the Ranger style. This one's a lot smaller. It's like a subcompact, tiny little Metro front end size, really tiny little.
I'm sure I'm getting that name wrong.
Yeah, well, it is what it is. It's from Mexico. They're up here I live right here, so there's people crossing every day, and there's a bunch of them. It
was like a car front end with a truck bed, but not like an El Camino like you're thinking, like a 4-door car with a truck bed.
Yeah, just a little short bed in the back. Something you could throw. I don't know what you can throw back there, but you know, you could throw at least a couple tires back there, and at least it's usable still. But I would love, or I would love to have a 4-door Mighty Max.
Yeah,
it's just a 2-wheel drive. The macro cabs, I'm not a fan so much of how the side looks of them.
Yeah, they didn't
like to have a
little
more leg room, like they have more leg room. But to me, I'm fine with this. You know, I'm 6'2", and I still fit okay in it. It's not the funnest, you know, not the easiest, but it's fine. It doesn't really bother me that much. But yeah, 4-door would be spectacular. I would really enjoy that. So if I could ever find one here in the U.S. that was reasonably affordable, I would want to build one of those in a heartbeat.
For sure. All right, Sid. So finally, I give everybody an opportunity to give a shout out. Is anybody that you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, sure. I'll give a shout out to a few people. First, I'll start off with you for carrying this platform and caring enough to put together a website and a list and all that. I know it's not easy because all these things you have to do take time. So I appreciate that. So shout out to you first of all.
Thank you so much.
And really shout out, Kevin Jewer for kind of planting the seed of seeing his truck initially and helping me with the initial tuning of my Datsun. Actually, I don't think he's ever really done much on this truck, but in the Datsun, he helped me out a lot. My friend Jared Burke for kind of getting me into the DSM platform in the first place. And then Willie Gilchrist and Tyler Diaz was another one up in Colorado that was just smoking all the V8s on the street. If you ever get a chance to watch Colorado Cash Days, take a look and you'll see Tyler just laying the smack down regularly on those guys. And so those two guys and, my buddy Leo down here for helping me, Ernest down here for helping me to, once in a while. I'm a pretty much one-man band, but sometimes I'll come out and give me some help or do some video and stuff like that. And, my family, obviously, I would definitely like to thank them for putting up with all my nonsense of playing with these vehicles as much as I do, and really everybody that comes up and says how much they like it, give a shout out to those folks, and anybody who who really comments, likes, looks at the videos and says anything. I appreciate all that feedback, and I'm going to try to throw some stuff out there to kind of bring some awareness to. I know there's a lot of people who've pushed this platform, the 4G63 platform, but I want to do it in a real sleeper way, and hopefully I can get some people. But yeah, shout out to all those folks and everybody that came before me that's done it and done it well, that kind of gave an idea of, that realized the potential of these engines. So yeah, shout out to all those folks. But that's about it for me, I think.
All right, Sid. Well, hey, I appreciate you coming on and taking your time and, sharing your wealth of knowledge. And I hope that it has either gave the listeners a little bit of motivation to build their Mighty Max, or to go out and get a Mighty Max, or to come up there and try to get into the nines to put some motivation back in seeing what you can do with that truck.
Yeah, great. I love it. And hopefully, if they have ever any questions, just message. I'm sure glad to help them out. So it's very easy.
All right, Sid. Well, thanks again, and hope to hear from you soon.
All righty. Thank you, Josh. Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the MitsuTimes podcast. Check out our Instagram and Facebook for daily updates. Get added to our list by going to MitsuTimes.org and clicking Submit a Slip. Thank you to all of our sponsors.